And later on in our See the Story segment, we will have a chit-chat with Bullyid founder and executive director Agita Pasaribu about protecting children from digital risks during the holidays. Hello and welcome to our signature segment, See the Stories. And we know that the digital world has become a central part of children's lives these days, offering both opportunities for education, but also exposing them to certain risks.
And yet many parents, including me, may lack the necessary tools or understanding to navigate this risk effectively.
So what is the best way to keep parents, for parents to keep their kids safe from any risks during the holiday? Joining us now is Bullyid app founder and executive director, Agita Pasaribu in the studio. Hello, welcome back to the studio.
Thank you for having me.
So the holidays are coming, and we know that the holidays is a very risky time for us parents and the kids, because either we don't give them enough to do, and keeping them away from the gadgets is also really, really difficult. So it often leads to more screen time. How do we manage that? So it's like, whether it is gaming or streaming on social media, what are some main concerns that parents should have if they're exposed too much to that during the holidays?
Yeah, I mean, social media and online gaming platform, it's something that it's kids basically using in every single day. I think, especially online gaming, in holiday, it's whether we actually giving a Christmas present as well for a new iPad, a new tab, and that's even getting even more. So for them, knowing about the barriers about the screen timing at home, it's also very difficult. So I think the first thing what parents should do first is actually being able to communicate better, right? And because we know that sometimes being a parent, we tend to be more judgment instead of basically telling our children what to do, what they have to do, and to just really speak up if they see something inappropriate, when they see any pop-up that they're not unsure, or perhaps something's inappropriate messages that they receive on social media, or when they're playing game, for example.
Or streaming on YouTube.
On streaming, exactly. So to communicate better, so we actually have the term, we call it CARE. So it starts with communications, awareness, roles, and example. So awareness, as we know that the children basically, we teach children about digital literacy, but do we actually teach ourselves as a parents about, online gaming, what to do and what not to do? Because, social media and gaming platform is actually increasing and getting even more advanced these days, right? And I think it's followed by rules as well, setting the rules at home. For example, not using gaming, or for example not using their devices on family meals, but then also set up an example. If you set the rules, so it means if there is a family meals or dinner, so moms and dad also not using the devices. So yeah, that's the principles I think that we use, and easy for parents to also follow.
CARE, communication, awareness, are
roles,
rules.
Yeah.
And examples.
Exactly.
Oh, I don't like the example part.
Don't be lazy.
No, I feel that so much. Like things pop up on her YouTube search, and like some of the lyrics was like, wait, what is that? And then she'll be back to me like, you listen to Kendrick Lamar. Like, oh, yep, that is guilty of that.
Yeah,
anyway, what are the most common online dangers faced by children in Indonesia, and how can parents help prevent those dangers?
Yeah, so unfortunately, we actually receiving quite a lot, even in our organization. So 49% apparently children experiencing cyberbullying and cyber harassment. And because also there's a lot of online predators right now on online gaming platforms. So we're not just talking when people doing a verbal harassment from their friends or another friends or cyberbullying, but also someone who's doing a sextortion to our children. First of all, sextortion started with online grooming. They pretend that they actually want to be friends with our children, and then they started to ask very intimate questions, sexualized chats, and asking for intimate pictures or videos from the children. And until at that point that our children don't really feel comfortable to talk to us because they feel afraid, and they feel to get judged as well from their parents, and then they're afraid their devices and gadgets will be taken by the parents. So making sure that there is a open communication is hugely important, because online grooming and sextortions, child online exploitation, it's a real thing. So online predators also right there on social media, and they keep looking and sort of kind of like surveillance who to target next.
Does it help when you tell your kids you're only allowed to communicate with people who you know?
Well, I think
because what I do is if somebody, because my daughter asks me, right? Because there was a time where she only started with online gaming. It was like suddenly she plays with strangers and then they start chatting. I was like, no, that's not good. But luckily she has friends who do play as well, right? So I told her that if it's a stranger, you don't know them, you don't talk to them, and that goes to live, but also online, because we don't know who they are.
That's true.
And when does that work? And what are other ways that parents can also monitor without overstepping? Because I know, especially in teenagers and preteens, right? They tend to argue with you, and then they tend to. My example would be, see, I don't pick up numbers that I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, so.
I mean, I think one thing, it's good to say that, hey, do not talk to strangers, right? But how far can we actually
monitor
that? Because at some point, they're definitely going to even receive messages or even direct messages from someone completely out of the blue. And we can't control that, especially when their social media, their Instagram DMs are open for public. Can we control that people not sending as a DMs? Not entirely, right? Unless we make sure that our children, to make sure that their private Instagram or everything, it's private. But when they're playing game online, everyone, they're connected with people around the world. It's hard to basically monitor, like, hey, do not speak with this one, because that's the point of playing gaming online. You want to talk with other players and so on. And I think what's more important is basically to have both ways. So it is not just mentioning about monitoring, like you are, like a helicopter moms and dads, but also it's sort of kind of like, hey, what is happening with you today? It's just simple kind of like conversation. Who do you follow? Do you like the conversation? How's the game? Right? I mean, because see, this is the thing about why children, it's not feeling very comfortable talking with their parents. Because when they say, hey, mom, do you know what? I was playing Roblox and Minecraft today. And then the parents come back and says, what was that? What was the Roblox and Minecraft? So it's important for the parents to keep updated as well. So they kind of like, oh, my mom knows about these things. I feel more comfortable. I feel not being judged when I share about my interactions, my activities. So I think when we say that to controlling heavily, it's not going to work 100%. But I think to have a open communications, being a friends, and when things happen, for example, inappropriate, and when the kids basically come up and being open to you, the first thing is stay calm, because they need reassurance from you. So instead of you being hyped up and saying like, oh my God, what's happening? No. So I think being calm and being reassurance, because that's what kids wanted to get from you. It's kind of a response, right?
I mean, she's hitting all the points. I mean, I know that we need to supposed to do that. Like, I tried to play Roblox to understand it. It's just like, it's too much. Like,
but I know what it is. But my question is, because it's getting really hard to monitor anyway, right?
Yeah.
And it's also getting harder to restrict them the older they get. What kind of knowledge should we equip them with? I mean, I understand that when we want to have conversations, we can't control them. We want to give them the freedom to decide, but they also have to know what is right and what is wrong.
Absolutely.
So how do we teach them, these are the boundaries. This is like red flag and this is green flag. How do we teach them?
Yeah.
Because some kids, they just go like, I don't care. Mom. So like, I just want to, socialize with people, and things like that, and you don't notice it,
Yeah. So there's a lot of different things. I actually put everything. So at the organization, we have a family digital plan that you can simply click on bullyid.org/digital plan. So it's literally step by step what the parents can actually do. So it's include something related for what is the do's and don'ts, right? And what can you do on social media? What happened, for example, if someone asking for your nudity pictures?
Yeah.
And you know, the point is basically there are a lot of different aspects on online safety. And it's a learning curve as well for the children. It's not something that they know what to do and with their mobile phone or their gadget, because platform is also improving. There is one social media right now, there is online gaming, but there's also another virtual, what was that? The virtual world as well, with metaphors, for example. And everything, it's improving. So, but if things happen, for example, if things happen, that's what I mentioned in the beginning, is that reassurance that parents basically stay calm and making sure to the children, whatever that happened, it is not their fault. And they have to report to you as a parent. You have to be, you know, parents have to be the forefront as a support system for their kids, right? And, you know, simple things, for example, like screenshot. That's a part of digital evidence. So then, for example, if you want to escalate it to the platform, you have the evidence and block or restrict. And after blocking and restrict, the next one, if you feel that you are not very equipped to help your children to go through with their psychological effects, talk to the psychologist. And that's why at Bullyid app we also have the counseling as well for the parents and even for the kids as well. So to making sure that there is support system available, because we understand not every single parent's being able to act as a psychologist or as a counselor.
I want to like how you answer it. Like none of this is actually limiting the kids from actually playing the gadget. It's just how a matter of like handling the matter itself. So, are there any signs or behavior or like things that we need to look out for? Like maybe she or he already facing all this, I don't know, cyberbullying or harassment or anything that we might need to worry about.
Yes, Indra, I think you really make the point, because it's impossible for telling our children are not using a social media anymore. And I know the Australia government started to you know, make the age for like 16 years old, and I think it's really, really hard, especially for kids these days. But I think the point is when we see a red signs or red flag, is that when you see your children is started to feel not comfortable when they check on the gadgets, normally they feel really eager to check the notifications, but when you see, if they check the notifications on your phone, they just start feeling, you know, anxiety. That could be one of the signs. So they started to have a mood swings, perhaps, or the you know, the education scores at schools, it's not as good as before. It could be one of the signs as well. And sometimes kids act differently depending on the kids as well. Some of the kids feels that they tend to be feeling more, prefer to be lonely, prefer to be alone instead of being with their friends. So if you, normally your children are being very talkative and then, you know, for example, being very open to you, and out of a sudden they just being very, very, you know, quiet at home, it could be one of the signs. So
sudden change.
Exactly, yeah.
But, well, again, my daughter's getting to preteens, so there's changes anyway. So I mean, like, how is there anything? I mean, like, she's already doing the changes. So I mean, like, she's going to be a teenager soon. So is there any like anything specific that I might need to look out for, or again, I don't know.
I think it's the most important is because we can't just simply guessing. Right? We can't just simply guessing, and sometimes the changes within the kids, it is not entirely because what happened on their online life as well. It also happened with the offline, you know, situations, that the friends that they actually meet on at schools and with the communities as well. So it's important to have that communications again with the children. So we can't just simply guessing and then being a judgment, I think, with the kids. So yeah.
Well, it's certainly really interesting because I feel like kids these days, they tend to forget, or they don't understand that there are consequences yet. So speaking of consequences, discussing online safety with kids, I understand depending on the age, it can be really tough. So are there any tips that you have on how to start that conversation?
Yeah, I think to start off a conversation, it's really started on the intention first. That basically we know that it's not easy and it's not going to be changed automatically, the environment at home. But I think to set up the rules and saying that, hi, we are going to have these rules that we want it to follow, and it's not just for you, but also for moms and dads, for parents as well. So when we mentions about a family digital plan, it is actually the rules that we have to agree on as a family. So include the children to also making that family digital plan. So digital plan means something that, hey, we agreed that there is no gadgets on family meals, either dinners or lunch, for example. So moms and dads, sisters, brothers, and yourself, we're also not going to have our gadget on the table when we are eating, right? And for example, whatever that you see online, if you're unsure, if there's any pop-up, you speak to me first. You speak to the parents first. So just to have those kind of conversations and having those rules in the beginning, it starts the conversation. And it makes the children feel that this is not just for me. I'm not only the only one who have to be obey with these rules, but it's the whole thing. So that's why when we mentioned about the rules and example, which followed by the communications and awareness, that's really, really important.
I have one additional question to that. Where do you start in terms of privacy? Because I understand there is an age where kids want the world to know everything about them. And they know it's true, right?
That's true.
Because that's what social media a lot these days is a lot about, what influencers on social media these days do. So the kids think that showing, your life or what you do every day, it's normal. And but they don't understand that what they show on social media is also not necessarily 100% what their life is, right? So where do you start in regards to that conversation? Because this is also a really important part of online safety. Like, how do we start the conversation? Like, look, there are things that you can share, but there are also things that should not be shared.
Yeah.
And that's like a red line. Do we need to make strict rules about it so they understand and we explain to them why or possibilities? Or does that have to be negotiated in a way?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked this, Kai, because it's really hard because there's so many parents right now is actually creating specific social media account for the children as early as possible because they're actually monetizing their platform. Yeah. Right? Some of us actually are babies influencers, right? Yeah. So I mean the question is who are the one who basically managing these platforms? Yeah. If it's managed by the parents, I think it's all right? Because it means the kids are not going to be exposed directly. Yeah. But if it's
the parents
kids,
will filter what's being shown
what they
well.
yeah. That's correct. But then if, for example, the kids are the one who are using it, the one who are creating the content, consuming the content, we have to be very careful with that. So how old is that? Well, I mean, with the social media, the age under the community guideline is actually under 13 years old, right? But we know these numbers are not, I mean, we know the age is as early as 5 or 6 years old these days. So I think when we mention about the privacy, how early we should start the online safety conversation is as early as possible. I mean, the earlier they basically, you allow them to have a gadget, to have a social media, to really just browsing on the internet, because right now schools is making it mandatory. You need to have a Zoom account, you need to have Gmail account, for example. So
and you need to research for your work at like third grade, fourth grade,
making presentations.
Making presentations. So it's really different from our days.
Exactly.
We have to research using books in the library.
What is that?
Yeah. Okay, that's really, really interesting. Yes. So as early as possible. Yeah. But you just mentioned something really interesting because not all parents allow kids to have social media as early. I mean, a lot of parents just allow them to stream and watch content, but not social media. So what would you say is the right age for social media?
Wow, that's really hard. I mean,
I'm old and I still don't feel like it's necessary now.
Yeah, I mean, if I say that, I mean, I think follow what basically the social media community guideline is on the 13 years old that they can have a social media. And even if you go to online gaming platform, so if you go to Apple Store or Google Play, you have this right? This rating basically. So the way how you look at it, it's sometimes online gaming platform, it's available for those people starting with 10 years old, 12 years old, sometimes it's actually 20 or 18 years old.
Yeah.
Because there is some, adult conversations or adult scenes that actually portray. For example, there's, when like a war game, for example, or violence,
sexual content.
Exactly. So I think it's a very important to understand that there are things. At least make it as a guideline for us, right? Make it as a sort of kind of like example, starting point for us to do that. But I understand, I think it's very important that for the parents to really sit down together with the kids and knowing that, hey, look, we provide you with the gadgets, but again, this is for you to understand the positive aspect of it, to meeting people, to basically, communicate with your friends, or to study, for example, but not accessing A, B, C, D, E, or not oversharing and sort of like that.
Oversharing.
Yeah, so we're already talking a lot about the dangers, which is some are obvious, some like we overlook it, but one of the things is how can we as a parents help the kids to have this healthy behavior or healthy habits on using their gadget?
I think screen time. Screen time it's really important. Kids' brain development itself, it's not even fully formed until the age of 25 years. And how they see things, what kind of content they will be looking at it, and it's influenced their brain development in a way. So it's important to basically understand that what we can do. And I think to answer your questions, Indra, what I could say is that if we mention, there is an Indonesian measurement about how long that Indonesians usually consume internet. It's actually between 6 to 8 hours per day. Wow. But I think that's too much for kids. Yeah. That's way too much for kids. So if we can, let's say, allocate, look, you have 1 hour per day to scroll, for example, or to play game. So use it wisely. And otherwise, you need to get some sort of kind of like consequences, or you have to do something if you over or excess the screen time. And that's also have to follow with the parents as well. So
that's tough.
That's really tough.
That is tough.
That's really tough.
Yeah, I because it's like everything for us is not digitalized as well. We have various kinds of gadgets, and not just like a tab we use for work, not just a laptop or the phone that we use to work as well. But even our recreational gadgets, like, I don't know, Kindle, reading ebooks and things like that. And kids see that it's a screen, Mom. I had that conversation with my 3-year-old, my almost 3-year-old. And I was like, okay, can we read books? And it was like, and she was like, no, I want your phone. You're on your phone. No, I'm on my Kindle. It's like, you see, this is words. It's just like no pictures, no nothing. It's like, but they don't understand it. It's like 2.5 years old. All they see is it's a gadget, right? So if why am I supposed to read books? She's like, why am I supposed to read a book and you're reading
a screen?
A screen. I was like, So they're example is hard.
It is hard. I mean,
like
even with the screen time limit, I still found my daughter. She'll be like, "Well, it's TV." Like, well, TV is also a gadget. Like, we're done. Like, we're done.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Agita, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure to speak to you and learning from you, because the holidays are coming, so we need to make our notes. We need to set our schedules, our do's and don'ts, and our holiday rules, because we're usually, as parents, at a higher risk to be very lenient for our kids, which is, step by step. The healthier, the better, right? So we're going to take a short break, but CDC Those Stories will continue after the break, so don't go anywhere.